The Star Sport podcast is brought to you by Access Credit Union. Access Credit Union, funding dreams for over 50 years.
Close your eyes and pull like a dog.
And a new Irish record for Phil Healy, 22.99.
Christy Cooney hands over the Sam Maguire Cup to Graham Canty, Cork All-Ireland champions for the 7th time ever.
Hello and welcome back to the Star Sport podcast, where, Kieran, this week we have a European silver medalist joining us. The Ballineen Bullet, Phil Healy, raced to success in the women's 4x400 metres relay at the European Championships in Rome last week, and she joins us to reflect on an incredible achievement. So that's one to look forward to very shortly, but we'll also be hearing from band and soccer star Conor Hourhan and taking a look at a mixed weekend for Cork GAA on this week's podcast. As always, the Star Sport podcast is brought to you in association with our friends at Access Credit Union. Access Credit Union, where your bank really does matter. Choose credit union, choose local, choose community. Now, like I said, Kieran, there is really only one place to start this week, and that is with Phil Healy, who's the special guest on this week's podcast. By now, everyone in West Cork, I presume, will have seen her part in the Irish women's 4x400 metres relay team, bringing home those silver medals from Rome. But Kieran, I wanted to start by asking you personally, you've been reporting on Phil's rise to this moment for years now at this stage. So what was it like for you watching that race last week?
Oh, it was class. Since I've been in the Southern Stars over 12 years now, my first interview with Phil, she was still she was doing her leaving cert in Coláiste na Tuirbearta in Bandon, and she'd won the school's 100 and 200 metre double that year, and it was just it was the start of an incredible journey that just keeps on giving. So I suppose my first emotion, I was just delighted for Phil. She has given so much to this sport over the years. They've just been blood, sweat and tears, and she came so close to medal at the European Indoors back in 2021, just finished fourth there and that. So to finally get her hands on her first kind of senior international medal, that'll mean an awful lot to her. It's not going to define what she's done, but it's just great for her to have an actual physical reward to kind of hold up and show it, as in this is all the blood, the sweat, the tears. It's all worth it because she has something physical to show from it now. But she's just an incredible ambassador for West Cork, and what she's done for Irish women sprinting is off the charts as well. And we spoke about it before in the podcast, Dylan, when Phil was competing at her first seniors nationals back in 2014. Now, Rashida Adeleke was only 11 years old, and look, her Adeleke is now kind of one of the top 400 meter runners in the world, and her story since then. But that shows how long Phil she's been at the top for that long. So for her to finally get a medal, I think it's brilliant. So kind of the overriding emotion was just genuine delight for Phil.
Yeah, and for Phil herself as well, most of the best sports stories are about somebody kind of overcoming adversity and things like that. And she's been on the podcast many times, but spoke recently about her struggles with the thyroid issue, with Hashimoto's disease as well in the last couple of years. And she was considering retiring as well. So for her to kind of overcome all that and still have a spot on this team and such an important spot as well is incredible too.
100%, and I think that tells us so much about, I suppose, Phil's character, that resilience, that steel, that stubbornness, that determination, that competitiveness that's seen her rise from Knocknaheedy and Ballineen to become one of the top Irish women sprinters of all time. And she's been very open and honest, like you said there, Dylan. She came close to packing it up a couple of times over the last few years. 22 and 23, they were fierce, challenging years for Phil. And if she did pack it up, what could you say? Kind of she hit a wall, she had a huge stumbling block, and it was like she couldn't see a way out for a long time. But like I said earlier, knowing how resilient she is and knowing how much of a fighter she is, she just wasn't going to give in. And now she's emerged into 2024. Look what she's achieved so far this year. She won a national indoor 200 meter title back in February, which is her 16th senior title between indoors and outdoors. She helped the Irish women's 4x4 team qualify for the Olympics when they performed so well at the World Relays in the Bahamas. And now she has a European silver medal. So she's getting all the success again off the back of a couple of years. So that probably makes it so much sweeter for Phil, knowing how close she was to the exit door. She stopped herself walking through it. She's gone back onto the main stage, and she's just reminded us all just what an incredible talent she is.
Yeah, and something I thought was very interesting listening to your interview with her today as well was she constantly references an exciting summer ahead, and obviously everyone knows the Olympics are there, but it's almost a mark of the kind of person she is that she's on here talking about her success, but already is looking ahead to the Olympics.
I suppose that's what Marcus wrote is one of the greatest sports people that West Cork has ever produced. Like I said, it's just that competitiveness. And she's so driven and she's so focused. And Paris is on her mind now. She's touch wood, all going well. She'll be named on the women's 4x4 and the mixed 4x4 relay teams. She's still trying to get there in the individual 200. She'll know for definite by the end of June. That's the cutoff for the qualification point for athletics for the Olympics. The Irish nationals are on the 29th to 30th of June. So depending on how things go there for Phil, we'll know quite soon after that whether she's made a quota for the individual 200. But she's the blinkers on. She has that medal. She'd a lovely few days. She was back home in West Cork for a small bit on Saturday, but back up again. She's back up to Waterford again. It's training, head down, trying to qualify for individual for the Olympics, and that's all that's in her focus now. But that's just a mark of who she is and how driven she is. So she's on to the next chapter. And I kind of joking with that with her for a while now, like saying like when the book of Phil Healy is written, there's so many different chapters, like and the thing is, this story is far from finished. There's so many so much more to come. Like she's only 29 years of age still. And like I said earlier, she's been at the top of Irish women's sprinting for the last 10 years. So that's incredible longevity. And that's a testament to her too. But it's also a credit to her coach, Shane McCormack, and everyone, this wide circle of people who played a part in Phil's story, like her mom and dad. Phil and Jerry were actually out in Rome on last week to watch her pick up the medal, as well as her Aunt Gillian from Barry Row, and they knew her family, her older sister Joan, who's been in the podcast numerous times, and Diarmuid and Padraig. And then you kind of branch out from that, Bandon Athletic Club, and everyone who's played a part in the story. So I think that's why Phil winning a silver medal, it just resonated so much here in West Cork, because she really feels like one of our own. She's a homegrown star. Like, she was Ireland's fastest woman who comes from a farming background here in West Cork. And I think everyone can just kind of relate to Phil and her story and the ups and the downs. And that's why everyone takes so much pride in it too, Dylan.
Yeah, and in this week's Southern Star, you have a great 2-page spread piece on a little bit of background into this success, I guess, and Phil's journey, and especially the people kind of behind her who've been helping her all the way as well. So that is one I would recommend for everyone this week. Obviously that'll be out this Thursday in shops and online as well. I don't know, should we keep the people waiting much longer, Kieran? I think we should just head straight to Phil now.
Now joined on the podcast by friend of the show, Phil Healy, and a European silver medalist. How does that sound, Phil? That you were European silver medalist, your name?
It's definitely a bit surreal. I actually don't think it still has sunk in. Like, I suppose it's been a manic few days and we're straight back into the thick of it again. But like, to come away from the champs with a silver medal definitely is, it's the stuff of dreams. I was obviously very disappointed with the individual, but maybe it was a blessing in disguise, because the semi-final was the same day as the heat, and then that would have been the night before the heat of the 4x4. So the turnaround is really, really short. So we're walking away from the champs with a silver medal and a big summer to come.
I'm going to jump straight to the final. When Sharlene crossed the line and you knew that you were after winning a silver medal, what was the kind of immediate emotion? Is it satisfaction, joy, relief? What does it feel like?
Absolutely, and I suppose this team knew our capabilities, and I suppose if we didn't come away with a medal, it would actually have been a disappointment. And like, we knew that gold was going to be hard. Like, the Dutch are so strong. Like, the Dutch are probably going to be favourites for Olympic gold, to be honest, if not silver. So they had a really, really strong quartet. We obviously had Rashida to bring into the final. They had 3 people to bring into the final, compared to what they ran in the heat. But like, Sharlene, everyone ran a phenomenal leg. For Sharlene to come out in her 5th race of the week, Rashida to come out in her 4th. It was myself and Sophie's 3rd. Like, obviously we had known with completely fresh legs, but to walk away with that medal, it was just unbelievable. And then there was so many Irish in the stand as well, so that made it even more special. So there was great excitement that Wednesday night.
What happens after a race like that? Then obviously before the kind of medal presentation and you pick up the medal, but when that race finished and you were celebrating, what happens between then and actually picking up the medal itself?
Yeah, so we had to go through the media zone. We did all our media interviews before we actually came back out to the team area in the warm-up area. So then it was all about getting ready, fixing up the hair, fixing up the makeup before we went to the medal ceremony. So it was a really short turnaround in the end, but like we probably only had half an hour back with the team before it was time to go again. And then after the medal ceremony, it was all about taking pictures, meeting the fans, because there was so many Irish there, and it was the last day of the championships. So I suppose some people were going home the following day, and then all the athletes went straight to McDonald's. So that's how it went.
That's the glamour of the celebration. So celebrating with a Big Mac or chicken burger after, was it?
Yeah, that was it. Though, like there was a McDonald's close to our athlete hotel where we had the Dutch, we had the British athletes, we had Portuguese in our hotel. So the majority of us were down there after the race.
But to be on the podium, getting a silver medal after like the 5 year up there, what does that feel like? Because you've given so much to athletics. We spoke beforehand. Feel like your first senior Europeans was back in 2014, and now we're 10 years on, and you're here winning a silver medal. And of course, like your career won't be defined by a medal like this, but still, what did it feel like just to be up on that podium and accepting that medal? And just like you can see the smile, the smiles in the laughs. Like it just looked like great fun.
Absolutely, because obviously these are the moments you're training for, and for any athlete, these moments are so rare. Obviously back in 2021, I was fourth at European Indoor, so slightly missed obviously the medal, and that's the closest I have been. I was fourth at European Juniors as well, but obviously the senior ranks is very different. But yeah, like it was just so surreal, and to share it with the girls was even more special because there's a great bond between us all. And then standing on the podium, seeing so many Irish people in the crowd in front of us, like it was just so special.
And your mom and dad are over there too. Did you get to meet them after the race?
I did. So they flew over on the Monday, so they were there. They actually missed the heat of the 200. They missed nothing, to be honest. And then they were there for the heat of the relay and the final, and Mom's sister was there as well. So it was great to have them over, to have them cheering them on, because they've been to all the races. So to actually, I suppose, have this special race and coming away with a medal, there was obviously great excitement.
Jump back to the semi-final for a second. You ran the second leg there, and I'm looking here. That was your fastest split ever. You said after 51-29. How satisfying was that for you after what happened on Monday in the individual 200?
Oh, absolutely. And I suppose for us, Tuesday was actually the pressure day, because if we didn't qualify on Tuesday, there was no hope of obviously being in the final on Wednesday. So we were unfortunate to lose out on Kelly McCrory. So she was in place of Sharlene. So Sharlene stepped up last minute in warm-up to take her spot. So I was always going to be second leg on Tuesday. But yeah, I had a job to do. We all had our job to do collectively. And like we were shocked to run 3:24 on Tuesday. Like it was just shy of the national record, and we didn't even have Rashida on the team at that point. Like if you rewind to Europeans in 2022, we ran 3:26 to break the national record, the same quartet of what ran the final on Wednesday. So like now to take 4 seconds off that record is just unbelievable.
And you ran the third leg then in the final. Is there a difference between running the second and third legs?
Yeah, so second leg you have to cross in after 100 meters. So they definitely were using my speed on the Tuesday to make the break and try to put the team in the best position. Come Wednesday, Rashida always runs second leg, so I knew I would be slotting into third leg. That's where I ran in the Bahamas as well. So then obviously again, I knew I was going to get the baton in a very good position with Rashida running before me. So I suppose there is a bit of pressure on that leg, but it was about not going through too quick in 200, but also holding my position. And then obviously in the last 100 I probably faded a little bit, but that's because I had gone through 200 so fast. But that's what you have to do. That's what you have to do for the team. But no, I was really happy to come away. Like it was 51.5. It was my third fastest split ever in a relay. So to do that in the final was great.
Like you mentioned too, it was a national record in the final, 3:22.71, and that's almost lost in the celebrations that you smashed the national record. So how satisfying is that for you as a quartet to do that?
Oh, that's unbelievable, because even for our 3:24.3, whatever we ran in Bahamas, that was the European lead time for this season. So like 3:22 to come second in a European Championships is absolutely crazy. Obviously we were so close to gold, but third, all the teams are so close together. So the standard in Europe is like unbelievable. And obviously with Olympics this year, sometimes Europeans can be, the standard is not the same, but this year was across all events, it was top class. There was like massive records, national records, PBs, everything. So it's going to be a very exciting summer for the Olympics for everybody watching.
So how excited are you for what's coming up, like Paris? It isn't that far away now.
Absolutely not. Like I know some of the athletes will go to holding camp on the 18th of July. That's only 4 weeks from now. So like the time will come around really quick. Obviously we have our national championships to do yet before announcement is fully publicized and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a very exciting few weeks ahead. Obviously there's great potential again in the relay. I am at the moment on just outside the quota for the individual 200. Hopefully the points that I get in nationals may bump me in. And if I don't, it's not the end of the world because I'm there to do my job on the relay as well. So yeah, no, it's going to be a very different Olympics, which is actually going to be very exciting as well. Obviously, when we rewind to 2021, I remember not coming home for months and months, pure because we had to get COVID tests. And if we got COVID before the Olympics, we weren't going to the Olympics. And even at the Olympics, we weren't allowed to go see any other events. We had to get tested every single day. If we tested positive or if our roommate tested positive, that was the end of it. So yeah, I know it's going to be very different Olympics. I suppose we went to the most non-Olympic Olympics. So now that the Olympics is going to be so close to home, so many people will be traveling. There's going to be a great buzz and a very exciting summer ahead.
Last time we had you on the pod, I think it was around the World Relays time, and you were saying that the relay is the ticket to the Olympics. And look at the success of the mixed team and obviously the women's team in at the Europeans. Just shows the strength of Irish sprinting right now.
100%. And like we were in the mixed relay final in the Olympics in 2021. Obviously it was a new event there. We came 8th. Now the guys are winning European gold. They, I think, was at 5th or 6th at World Championships last year. Like it's unbelievable to see. And now that every other country sees that Ireland are medal contenders in all relays. In 2021 we didn't have a women's relay. At Tokyo we were there in Europeans. In 2022 the girls came, I think, was at 7th in Worlds in 2023, and here we are now as silver medalists in 2024. So absolutely, like even when you look at 400-meter sprinting in Ireland, we had 3 girls in the top 10 at Europeans, which is it's just phenomenal. And Ireland certainly is a massive medal contender across all events, but especially relays now.
Does it raise expectations for Paris?
I suppose it does. It's always going to be the expectations there, but Olympics is a different ball game. Obviously, coming in off silver medalists, we will have the likes of America and Jamaica and all these countries to come in. But 100% is an Olympic final the target, and then on beyond that, once you get to the final, anything can happen. Obviously, timetable is something that we have to take into consideration as well, because I know the heats of the 4x4 relay are before the 4x4 or before the 400 individual final. So if we have girls in the 400 individual final, we'll obviously lose out on them. So yeah, it's going to be an exciting summer. Other countries are going to be in the exact same position, so it will all be to play for. But an Olympic final will definitely be the team goal.
And I know you came home from Rome with a silver medal, but you lost the measuring tape, Phil. What's happening?
Yes.
What's happening with these measuring tapes?
Yeah, so the measuring tape was taken off me after the 200 meters. So when we set up our block, we didn't get the measuring tape back. So that is something that reminds me. That is something that I need to get back in the training bag.
The last time you were on too, we put out a call for like even a band and co-op. Like we need to get you like a supply of measuring tape.
A box.
Don't we?
A box for them, yeah. So like sometimes, yeah, when you are at a championship, sometimes you're not allowed them, and sometimes you are allowed them. Sometimes they just take them off and they don't come back to where your gear actually is. So that was the case this time. So I do need to stock up and put one into the training bag.
Now has a measuring tape from West Cork and they don't know what to do with it.
Yeah, that's absolutely it.
Oh no, great stuff. Phil, come here. Congrats again on your European silver and continued success in the weeks ahead.
Super, thanks a million.
The Star Sport podcast is brought to you by Access Credit Union. Access Credit Union, funding dreams for over 50 years.
Welcome back to the Star Sport podcast, and we're going to chat a little bit about a mixed weekend, Kieran, for Cork GAA. A loss obviously for the men's senior footballers, a really good win for the ladies footballers, and a kind of a win for the hurlers, but a performance that Pat Ryan maybe wasn't the happiest with. So starting with the footballers, and obviously lost to Tyrone at the weekend, and it was a real opportunity for them to. We spoke about it on the podcast last week. A real opportunity for them to win their group and secure direct qualification into the All Ireland quarterfinals, but instead they're looking ahead to a game away against Louth this weekend on Sunday.
Yeah, the consequences of defeat, Dylan. So Cork were top of the group winning before ball was kicked last Saturday, and they finished the day third place. So instead of a direct route through to the All Ireland quarterfinal and a week's rest this weekend, Cork are back out in action on Sunday away to Louth, and it's a long trip. It's up in Inniskeen and Monaghan, of all places. That's where Louth's home game will be. So it is a long trip away for Cork, and you're minus that week's rest as well. And it's going to be, all of a sudden, the landscape looks a lot different. If Cork had won the group, like I said, we had that week's rest before an All-Ireland quarter-final. Touch wood, Cork will get past Louth on Sunday, but you're straight into an All-Ireland quarter-final the weekend after. So that's 3 games in 3 successive weekends, and 3 big games as well. So I think Cork will be disappointed losing to Tyrone, 18 points to 118 to 17 points. Cork were up a point at half-time. But things just went against Cork in the second half. Missed a goal chance. Chris Hope-Jones got a black card. Then Tyrone got their goal. They were 5 points up at one stage, and Cork just couldn't reel them in after that. So Cork, like I said, Cork will be disappointed. And John Cleary was speaking afterwards, and again he was ruining missed chances. And he said they came back to bite Cork in the second half. And it's almost a team of this Cork said over the last couple of years missed chances. And the thing is, and I'm writing about it in Thursday's Southern Star, that for Cork to take that next step, they need to be more ruthless. They need to take their chances. Against Donegal, Cork got 3 goals, and they got a win against a division, and now a Division 1 team, and the Ulster champions. Against Kerry, Cork only got 1 goal, and they lost the game. Against Tyrone the last day, Cork didn't score a goal at all, and they lost the game as well. So it just shows that the Cork need to be ruthless to take that next step. But also it's very important that Cork are playing Louth on Sunday. And this is actually the 5th meeting between the counties in the last 24 months. So it's the rivalry we didn't know we needed, but we're here for it now. Twice in the championship, twice in the league. Louth have won the 2 league games. Cork have won the 2 championship games. So it's a chance to make it a hat-trick of wins on Sunday. But it's so important for Cork to beat teams of the same standard of them on a regular basis. I think that gives them a platform to take that next step, to start kind of taking down the top teams instead of taking down a Donegal, one big team this season like Donegal this year, Mayo last year, to consistently and back-to-back beat them. I think Cork are still, that's what they're trying to get to. But it's all a process. So it's important Cork get the win on Sunday. It's not going to be easy. Like I said, it's a long away trip, but I think it's really, really crucial for this group to be able to beat teams in and around their standard.
How important is it for Cork in this game specifically to kind of play well in both halves? Because we saw against Tyrone a good first half, and then just things did kind of drift away from them in the second half. Like they didn't really, they had 13 points on about 15 minutes into the second half, and then didn't score a point for 10, 11, 12 minutes. So like that is something that does need to be addressed, isn't it?
If someone could kind of go through all our podcasts over the years and search for the word consistency and say how many times has Kieran used the word consistency when it comes to the Cork footballers, but that's what Cork football has been missing for a long, long time. It's the consistency. It is a bit better this season now. Cork have lost just two of their last 9 games, and those 2 defeats came to 2 Division 1 teams, Tyrone last weekend and Kerry. And in and around that, Cork have beaten Donegal, and they beat a lot of Division 2 teams and a couple of Division 3 teams as well, which is what they need to do. But you're dead right. It's just that consistency, and that's why last weekend kind of felt like a missed opportunity, because what we wanted was Cork to back up the win against Donegal by beating another top team. So you're putting 2 big wins back to back, Go back to last summer, Cork beat Mayo, then backed it up and they beat Roscommon. So we wanted to see something similar this year. Just didn't work out. Didn't work out last Saturday with Tyrone winning that game. But you're right, yeah, we want to see a more consistent performance. And Cork will have to bring it because even though Louth haven't won their last 2 games, they drew with Monaghan and they got a bit of a trimming off Kerry last weekend. They'll probably be happy that they got Cork as well. I think both counties, it's the draw that they would have preferred. So they'll fancy their chances of taking Cork in the championship for the first time since I think 1957. And when you're looking back over the recent 4 meetings between the teams, twice there was 2 points in it, once there was 3 points, and once there was 4 points. So there's very little to separate these teams. It's literally a kick of a ball, and that's what it comes down to, that taking your chances, and like you said, Dylan, just being consistent across the full game.
How much will the fitness of Brian Hurley have an effect this weekend? Obviously, he missed the Tyrone game. What's the latest on his fitness going into this weekend?
So there was no Cork media this week. We were informed there on Monday that John Cleary and the Cork team, they wanted any media. So there is no kind of update on Brian Hurley's fitness apart from what was said after the game on Saturday. And that's when John Cleary said that Brian is 50-50 for this weekend coming up. It is a hamstring injury, so it's hard to know whether Brian would be fit or not, and if he's fit, how much he can play. So we just have to wait and see on that one. But Brian Hurley is a huge loss because he's such an experienced campaigner, and I know there's kind of the young gunslingers coming on the scene now. You've got Chris O'Jones and Conor Corbett and Conor Mahoney, but Brian Hurley has been there, done that. He knows the standard that's needed. He's a man that can set the standards. He'll demand high standards himself. So he's a really important presence to have around, I suppose, the squad force, but especially on the pitch as well, because he's a leader. So hopefully we'll see Brian on Sunday. But if he was out with a hamstring injury last weekend, and John Cleary said he wasn't 100%, I suppose the last couple of days would have been key to seeing whether Brian will play any part on Sunday or not.
Yeah, well, only time will tell there. I'm sure we'll await the team news with interest later this week. That game is on, like Kieran said, in Inniskeen in Monaghan at 3 p.m. on Sunday. It's live on GAA Go as well for those who can't travel this weekend. Moving on to a more positive result in Cork's weekend, and that was the ladies footballers who cemented a home All-Ireland senior quarter-final following a stirring comeback against Galway. So Kieran, they were 1-7 to 5 points behind heading towards halftime, but managed to bring it back and win 112 to 110 in the end. A great comeback.
Yeah, huge win for the Cork ladies football team. Again, we've talked about them a lot in the podcast this year. A really poor league campaign. Lost 6 games in a row, got relegated from Division 1 down to Division 2 for the first time in over 2 decades. So that was the kind of the backdrop when heading into the championship. The Munster Championship went well enough, all things considering. Beat Waterford, beat Tip, lost to Kerry in the group stage, and lost again to them in the Munster final. But that first half against Kerry in the Munster final was probably one of Cork's best performances, best halves of the year. So there was so considering where Cork were at the start of the year and the player turnover and all the experience they lost and how many young players are being drafted in and given their chance, we've seen a growth, we've seen development in the last couple of months. And in the group stages of the All-Ireland series, Cork hammered Laois the weekend before last, and then coming up against a good Galway team, for Cork to, like you said there, to come back from 5 points down and win by 2 points, that's a real kind of hope flag in the ground moment for this side, because it shows that they have something. And now what this does as well, it guarantees Cork home advantage in an All-Ireland quarter-final. So if we think back to last year, Cork had to travel away to Armagh for a quarter-final, which they won, but at least this time it's home advantage in a quarter-final. So I think that's another box ticked. So Shane Ronayne will be quite happy. Or not quite happy, so he'll be delighted with the response of this team in the last couple of months. So they're guaranteed to be in the last 8, and the last round of games in the group stage are on this weekend. Cork aren't in action because they played both their games, like I said, the wins against Laois and Galway. So we'll know by Sunday evening who Cork will be playing in the quarterfinals, and so they can plan ahead for that. But yeah, a good news, positive story.
Yeah, a positive story, but another manager who was less positive with his side's performance at the weekend was Pat Ryan. He bemoaned Cork's sloppiness as they did beat Offaly 425 to 319. So a high scoring game, but one that was a little bit disappointing for Ryan despite the win.
Yeah, coughing up 319 to Offaly, and the greatest respect to Offaly, that is the concern because we're moving out towards the latter stages of the All-Ireland Senior Hurling Championship. There's 6 teams left. Cork are playing Dublin in a quarter-final this Thursday. It's in this Saturday in Thurles. That'd be quite odd having a quarter-final on a Thursday, but no, it's definitely on Sunday. It's definitely on Saturday in Civil Stadium Thurles at 1:15, in case I've confused the life out of our listeners. So that's definitely Thurles Saturday 1:15, and it's live on RTE. So Cork would be fancied to beat Dublin on Saturday, and but they'll certainly have to give a better performance than they did against Offaly. Even Fergal Condon, the selector, was saying it afterwards that more is needed, especially as we go towards the latter stages. And when you think of what's waiting in an All-Ireland semi-final in Croke Park, like a team of the calibre of Limerick, Cork need a good performance, and obviously to win this weekend, and they need a bit of momentum behind them before you go into a game against a team like Limerick in an All-Ireland semi-final. Dublin themselves are coming off a bit of a hocking in the Leinster final, so they'll be licking their wounds, and they'll be eager to show that they're not as bad as the final score suggested that day in the Leinster final. So there's a lot on the line. But you think that this Cork team, considering what we saw in the latter stages of the Munster Senior Hurling Championship when they beat Limerick and they beat Tipperary, and they did look so impressive, that you'd hope last weekend was just getting over a tricky challenge. It was a potential banana skin. They've jumped that hurdle, and now we're getting out to the serious business, and we hope that we'll see a much better Cork performance on Saturday.
Yeah, just on that as well. Dublin, I know I'm kind of eating my own words here, but on last week's podcast, I said Cork would have an eye on a semi-final already with Offaly and Dublin standing in their way. But now this week, I'm kind of thinking Dublin actually are a lot better than people give them credit for. They've come on a lot, especially this year, and I think the Leinster final was probably a little bit of a false result. Not that Kilkenny didn't play well or anything like that, and Dublin obviously deserved to lose, but it might kind of hide a little bit how good Dublin are. So hopefully Cork will have their will be a lot more consistent, I guess, in this weekend's game. Like I would say, if they play the same way they did against Offaly, you could be looking at a bit of a shock result there. So they will have to up their game on Saturday, isn't it?
Definitely Saturday. So sorry for all the confusion. Yeah, but you're dead right. Cork will need to bring a lot better performance levels, intensity, work rate than we saw in Tullamore last Saturday. Do that, I think Cork have enough about them, enough scores in that team to get over Dublin. But like you said, Dublin are a good team. Okay, people will point to the Leinster final, but Dublin had quite a good Leinster campaign before that, and this Dublin team will be eager to show that they're not as bad as that Leinster final scoreline suggested. So beware the wounded animal. So Cork need to start this game well. They need to kind of get on top early, because you don't want Dublin to get their tails up, and a Dublin team with a point to prove. It could become a very tricky game for Cork. But like I keep saying, I just think if Cork bring their best performance, then they've too much for Dublin.
Yeah, well, fingers crossed, and we'll find out on Saturday. This weekend. Now, finally, on this week's podcast, we have another chat to bring you. It's with Bandon soccer star Conor Hourahan. He's recently, Kieran, announced his return to Barnsley 10 years after first signing for the club. He'll have a hybrid role as a player / coach, and you caught up with him recently at the Celtic Ross Hotel.
Yeah, so we had a West Cork Sports Star monthly presentation, and Conor was presented with an award for captain in Derby County to League One promotion. So Conor usually comes home to Bandon and West Cork every June, because that's that. I suppose when you're a professional football player in England, the season is relentless, and especially when you're talking like League One Championship, like you're talking 44, 46 league games a season. So he doesn't get the chance to pop home during the year. But every June, I'd say his family circles June, because they know he's going to be home for however many days. Kind of, I think it was a short visit this time, could have been here for 7 or 8 days. But his wife Olivia was with him, and their daughters Ada and Ora as well. So they're all into Celtic Ross, and Connor's mom and dad were there, and his sister, and so there was it was the Howard clan that descended onto Celtic Ross, and it was lovely to catch up with Connor again, because and I wrote about it actually in the Star a couple of months back after the Derby clinch promotion. Connor has achieved so much in soccer, and I'd say it again, we don't make enough of a fuss about him. Like, he's the greatest soccer player West Cork has ever produced. Like, he's a 36, 37 caps for Ireland, West Cork's first ever Premier League footballer. He's captained teams to win trophies at Wembley. He's captained teams to win promotion. He's scored goals in the Premier League. He shared pitches with Mo Salah and kind of these world superstars. And that's a boy from Bandon who's done that. So I really do think that people need to be so proud and just kind of, I suppose, cognizant of what Conor Horan has achieved, because the fact he's achieved it across the water, and he left here when he was 16. He's 33 now, so he's spent over half his life living in England. Maybe we feel that connection isn't there with Conor, but it really should be, because he's so proud of where he's from. He's a Bandon man first and foremost. He started his soccer story with his local club, Bandon AFC. So it's always nice to catch up with him when he's home. And as you'll hear from him now, we kind of just talk about the next step in his career. Like you said, he's gone back to Barnsley, and coaching is where he sees himself. And coaching is actually built into this contract. So he's going to be he'll be a kind of a player coach for the next 2 seasons. But then in 2 years' time, there's a full-time first-team coaching role built into the contract. So that's quite exciting for him as well. And before we hear from Conor, I just think as well, Dylan, there's a lovely feel about this year. It's like, when we talk about West Cork sport, if we look at the top sporting stars over the last decade, Conor Horan, Phil Healy, Paul O'Donovan, people like this, they're all back in the headlines this year, and they're all still doing it. Like, think of the longevity that all these years later, that they're still getting the front page of the Star, they're still performing at the top levels, European silver medals, captaining teams to promotion in England. Touch wood, Paul and Fintan go quite well in the Olympics. It's just incredible, and that's not even talking about the Brian Hurleys of this world who's done so much for Cork GAA over that decade as well. So it's just I just feel this year that there's an awful lot of good stuff going on. Obviously we've an Olympics, and it's just crammed with sport this year. But to see the Phils and the Connors and the Paul O'Donovans and the David Harts as well, like David Hart, touch wood, will be going back to another Olympics with the Irish men's hockey team. It's just great to see that the top West Cork sports people of the last 10 years are still performing at such a high level.
Yeah, I think we definitely said last year on the podcast that it was a very good year for West Cork sport as well. So this year being good so far is no surprise to me anyway. But like you say, just to echo what you said there, like the longevity especially of some of the people you mentioned there is incredible. And even looking to the future, some of the stars on the way up as well are incredible. Like, we had Nicola Tuttle on the podcast last week. She's still within a shout of getting a spot at the Olympics this year as well. So like, it is genuinely incredible actually every week looking through the Star Sport pages. But we'll hold that for a moment. We'll hear from Conor, and we'll come back to have a quick look at what is in this week's Southern Star.
Conor, welcome to the Celtic Ross for the West Cork Sports Star Awards. What's it like to be back home in West Cork again?
Brilliant, yeah. Always like to come back. Always, try and get back in the summertime. So really delighted to be back. We're probably about 3 or 4 or 5 days into being back now and heading back in a few days' time. We've been absolutely blessed with the weather as well, with the kids and stuff. So it's been brilliant. Is it important for you to get home as much as you can? Yeah, I think so. Especially touching base with people that the season's relentless. It's so hard to get back during the course of the season. So, mum and dad and brother and sister always kind of come to me during the season, so it's always nice to repay the favour in the summer, come back, with my wife, my kids, and let mum and dad spend more time with the grandkids and all the rest of it. So it's always something that I like doing every summer since I've moved to England. Has always come back every summer. I think it's really important, really. Does it ever kind of dawn you that you were 16 when you left West Cork to kind of chase your dream over in England, and you're 32 now and you're still there? Like, it's been an incredible 33, story. You're being kinder. 33. Oh. Yeah. Look, time goes. It's scary. Like, it's like you said, moving at 16 and spending over half my life now in England. Like, where's that time gone? It goes quickly, but look, I've been delighted with what I've done, what I've achieved. I've absolutely made the utmost of myself and sacrificed and worked tirelessly every single day to try and forge a career for myself. I've had some, very unbelievable days over in England with big teams and big games and internationally. So look, it's been an absolute amazing ride. It's obviously going to continue on again next season. And But yeah, it's sometimes when you look back and you sit down and have a look at it, it's very few and far between people manage to do it, and I've been thrilled with what I've been able to do.
You mentioned next season, that's the next chapter in your story. So you just last week the news broke that you signed back with Barnsley, your former club, in a kind of a hybrid player-coach role. So tell us a small bit about how this move came about.
So obviously I was doing the 16s last year at Barnsley while with Villa. I was doing the Villa 16s and the Barnsley 16s while playing, so it was a busy year last year. It's obviously something that I've been, working towards, coaching badges and looking to the future basically, so it's something I'm really passionate about. Barnsley, a club I had success with before, they sacked their manager, the new manager was coming in and reshuffling the pack with his staff and stuff, and a kind of an opportunity came for me to be a part of his coaching staff and play a little bit as well, and I thought, it's probably the perfect time, perfect chance to, dip my toe into the other side of the game and learn, get experience, and that's something I'm really looking forward to, really.
And how does a player-coach role work then, even in terms of training and games?
It's going to be difficult, I think, from, I've spoken to a couple of people who have had them roles, they're not regular. Fortunate enough for Barnsley to give me the opportunity to do that. How it's going to turn out, I don't know. Will I do more coaching, will I do more playing? Time will tell on that, but I'm going to have to keep myself somewhat fit, and then, be involved in coaching and the organisation of day-to-day staff and coaching jobs. So it's going to be interesting, it's going to be tough, it's going to be different, but what I'm really looking forward to, and to gain that vital experience for investing in my future kind of thing is something that I think this time now is something that I can really grab hold of, learn, gain experience, and stand me in good stead moving forward.
I see, but into the contract too, in 2 years' time you're becoming a full-time first-team coach, so is that almost putting the clock on your playing career? Like, is that the end date for Conor the player?
I don't know. If I last 2 years playing, Jesus, I don't know. So, look, time will tell. I think that's kind of a clause in there for now. Let's just see how the next couple of years go. How much do I play? How much I'm enjoying the coaching? How well it's going for me? And how much influence I'm having in and around the club. So let's just see on that. There's not really a time frame, but I suppose they had to put something in there for legal reasons. So it's. I think there's a coaching job for me on the horizon there, in the distant future, which is great to have the security as well.
I was watching an episode of The Overlap lately, did Wayne Rooney on, and Jamie Carragher and Gary Neville were asking him, this before Wayne Rooney went back, took over at Plymouth, why do you want to be a manager, why do you want to be a coach? Because Jamie Carragher couldn't understand why. Like, for you, what is it about coaching and managing that you want to get involved in?
It's probably an obsession about the game, love the game. The detail that goes into it, the everyday kind of work that goes in with individuals. To think back at good coaches that I had, the time and effort they put in with me to give me a pathway for my career. Obviously, as a player, then you have to grab it and work hard yourself, of course. The success that may come with it. And I think the second best probably thing for a player is to become a coach or a manager, to have that buzz, to have the everyday feel of the game. I can't see myself going without it. So. I think there's a lot of detail and organisation and planning goes into, a coaching role and a manager's role that people don't see, and that's something that I've always been obsessed with and loved. And there's a lot of aspects, I suppose, but I think it's that real obsession and love for the game. And I think you have to love it and not be obsessed with it if you're going to go down that road of coaching and management, because it takes over your life, and you have to be willing to put in that time to be a success at it.
And you're obsessed to the point where you have your own coaching Bible. I was reading a very interesting piece in The Athletic where you've been putting together kind of notes and so on for the last couple of years. Talk to me a small bit about that. Like, how long has this been in the building this coaching Bible?
I probably started my badges during COVID. An opportunity came to start badges over the COVID period, but taking notes and reading articles and analysing sessions and all that has probably been going on for 6 or 7 years now, jotting things down on books and on notepads. Tidied that up now, and they're all on laptops and all the rest of it. And speaking to a lot of managers and sporting directors who I would meet and ask them questions and pick their brains on certain managers, or why do you appoint this manager, or why do you appoint that coach? And they've given me huge advice on that. And every young modern day coach now is unbelievable on laptops, and they're technology savvy and all the rest of it, because you have to be independent. You can't rely on anyone. You have to be able to do it yourself. And it's just all snowballed into this fascination of the coaching side of the game. And it's like I said, that detail, that planning, that organisation of your sessions and writing things down that you don't want to forget. it's just something that I love doing. And like I said, it's kind of taken over the playing side of my game towards the latter end of my career, and it's something that I'm looking to do moving forward, really.
And you said a couple of times now, Conor, you're not scared of retiring anymore. And I think that's great to hear, because it can leave a void for footballers when there's nothing after football. Like, so you must be so excited for this next chapter when full-time coaching does.
Yeah. Hopefully, if I'm good at it, first and foremost, that's the most important thing, you know. So, look, it's something that I used to be scared of retiring, you know. Didn't really know what I was going to go into or what I was going to do maybe 6 or 7 years ago. But now with the coaching and the coaching badges and the obsession of that side of the game came along, and there was a huge focus on that and, you know, obsession with it. So I'm not too scared of retiring now, which is great. You know, you hear about players who retire and they stop and they don't know what to do and they get into trouble and all that. So it's great to have a focus, a purpose, you know, a drive to want to be a success at something else now moving forward. And it's really great, really, to have that and to be into something so much coming to the later years of your career, you know.
Brilliant. Continued success, Conor.
Cheers, thanks.
Welcome back to the Star Sport podcast. And Kieran, before we heard from Conor there, I said that this week's Star was, I didn't exactly say this week's Star was packed, but I know this week's Star is packed. It always is. And it's full of some brilliant stories and great competition relating to Conor Hourihane as well.
Yeah, so we have 2 signed footballs and 2 signed photographs from Conor Hourihane to give away to 2 lucky winners. So check out this Thursday's Southern Star Sport for details on how you can enter that competition. So with European Championships going on at the moment, Dylan, we're gripped by football fever here in the Star office. It's usually on in the background when I'm meant to be working. I've one eye what's going on in the Euros. So that's why we when we met Conor last week, we said, will you sign a couple of footballs for us? So I think it'd be a lovely prize for any sports fan in West Cork to get their hands on those footballs. So like I said, Thursday Star, you'll see all details on that. And also in Thursday Southern Star, I have an interview with former Cork senior football manager Brian Cuthbert on suggested changes that he's proposing to kind of get Cork football back on track. And I suppose the context for this is, we look at the Cork Miners this year, suffered heavy back-to-back defeats against Kerry and Mayo. The Cork under-20s lost twice to Kerry as well. The Cork Seniors lost to Kerry. So we kind of suffered a whitewash against Kerry in the Munster Championship. And if we're looking at schools level, underage level, what does Cork need to do to get the, I suppose, Cork teams competitive again? And it's 2012 was the last time a Cork school won the Cornivery, which is the Munster College's Senior A football championship. So Brian Cuthbert has a suggestion, has a proposal where he wants to see schools in various regions around the county use as hubs, that everything is driven through them. So I won't say too much more, but check out the Start to find out more about that. You mentioned earlier, Dylan, about the deep dive into Phil Healy's European silver medal. So it's just it's going a few layers deeper into what that medal meant to her, but also to the people around her. So kind of catch up with her brother Diarmuid, who gives me an insight into Phil. And I also chat to Ronan Duggan. He's the son of Catherine Duggan, who was Phil's first coach at Ballineen Athletic Club, and just how the stars align sometimes. Catherine's 7th anniversary of her passing was last Wednesday, June 12th, and that was the same night that Phil won the European medal. So it's just incredible how sometimes there's these stories in sport and these parallels. So it's that's a long read that I really would recommend for our listeners. Also, we had the Dunman with 10K was on last Sunday, so we have pictures and a report from that. We have a really good story with Sean Holland has spoke to John Leahy, the colourful West Cork League character who managed the Clonakilty team that won the Beamish Cup and the Premier Division title, also roundup of the Kennedy Cup. And we also have words with Gavin Coombs, who is adjusting to his new role as an impact sub. Things didn't go too well for Munster last weekend, losing to Glasgow, but it's just interesting to see how Munster used Gavin Coombs in the last couple of weeks. He was used as an impact sub in 5 of their last 7 games, and he admits it's a role that's hard to get used to. So there's an interview with Gavin Coombs on that. And also finally, Keith Cronin is in the Donegal International Rally this weekend, a big 3-day marathon event up in Ulster. So Keith is the leader of the Irish Tarmac Series, so we chat to him as well. And besides that, there's a lot more as well.
Loads in there this week. And as well, this week is a great week to buy the Southern Star, because our popular Things to See and Do in West Cork magazine is free inside this week's edition. So there's 104 pages of hundreds of things to see and do across the summer. It's perfect for locals, for tourists, for anyone in between as well. So all that will be available in shops across West Cork from Thursday morning. And as always, if you're further afield or you can't make it to the shops, just subscribe to the Southern Star and get it on your laptop, tablet, or phone. Head to subscribe.southernstar.ie, enter your details, and you'll get an exact replica of the newspaper for less than €2 per week. Now is a great time for any sports fan to sign up, especially with the Olympics looming and the football season well underway as well. So as always, thanks for listening to the Star Sport podcast, and thanks again to our sponsors at Access Credit Union. If you've enjoyed this, please remember to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and we'll be back again next week. Thanks for listening.